Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council. I am your host, Sean Boyle, and with me is
Ashley Mock.
And welcome to the 1 hour commercial-free, because we don't know how to do it, radio program that's all about connecting you, the listener, to what resources are available to children and families in St. Lucie County. And we come to you every Tuesday at 11 a.m. on legendary WIRA 1400 a.m. To talk about what there is to do for children and families in St. Lucie County, but also to connect you, the listener, to what resources are available. And if you're wondering why did they give us this radio program, it's because at the Children's Services Council, we do 5 things. We do 5 things pretty well for St. Lucie County, exclusively for St. Lucie County. First thing that we do is we make sure every baby's a healthy baby. Second thing that we do is we stop child abuse before it happens. Third thing that we do is we keep kids off the streets. Fourth thing that we do is we keep kids in school. And the fifth thing that we do is we keep kids off drugs and alcohol. You thought I forgot, didn't you? I paused there for a minute.
You would never forget.
But we do this by funding and providing operating support to 53 programs in St. Lucie County. And for many of our listeners, these are probably programs that you've heard of. The Avenue D Boys Choir, for example, the Boys and Girls Club, Hibiscus Children's Center. Altogether, all told, 53 programs that last year reached 34,000 children. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Actually, it amounts to about are you looking at our matching outfits today? 34,000 amounts to just about half of the population under the age of 18 in St. Lucie County. So we, through our funded programs, are reaching about half of the kids in our community, which is a huge number. And through those 53 programs that Sean mentioned, we have a couple of easy ways to find out more information. And one of those is through our family guide. It is a quick explanation, description of each one of those 53 programs, as well as contact information. So if there is a service that you are looking for your family, or perhaps you've heard some neighbor or coworker talk about something that they might be needing, this is the best place to find that information. It's got a description again, the contact information for how to get in touch with that program, and most of them have the locations. The after-school programs actually list each of the locations. Now, a lot of our services are done in-home, so there may be an address that you find for that agency that will be their administrative office, but that does not necessarily mean that the service is conducted at that address. A lot of our services are voluntary programs that are done in the home, so if you're looking for more information, I would encourage you just to call and ask questions.
And what is the number?
The number to our office is 408-1100. And again, that family guide is available also on our website, which is cscslc.org.
And, you mentioned our website. You just gave it out. We're also on Facebook.
We are.
So those of you that are maybe streaming online, kind of, sneaking a little bit at work, maybe not sneaking is the right word, but listening while you're at work, go ahead, open up another browser, go to your Facebook page. I'm sure your employer will allow that to happen. And look up Children's Services Council, St. Lucie County. Make sure you put in the St. Lucie, because while we love the 7 other Children's Services Councils, we're particularly fond of the St. Lucie County one. And like our page, we post on there daily, sometimes twice a day. But we post kind of what's happening, what's going on in between the radio show, if you will. And we always post what the guest brings, all the information that they bring.
We do. There's actually a document that was recently uploaded to our website as well, the annual report. I see you brought a copy.
I brought a copy just so that you would bring it up.
Oh, well, imagine that. Our annual report was actually, we printed a sort of condensed version of the annual report in last Wednesday's paper. So that went out to all newspaper subscribers. It was actually a full-page ad. But what we have done in addition to that is printed a detailed version of the annual report. And it really goes through kind of those 5 priority areas that Sean mentioned and talks about a success story from each one of those programs and a statistic from each one of those programs, how the programs in that category performed over the last year. So it's a really cool document if you get some time to look at it. The success stories that are in there are really great and will kind of give you an idea of the types of families, the types of children that are being impacted through those programs.
And if you have a short attention span, like I do.
I didn't say that.
And if you don't want to read the annual report, although it's a quick read, I mean, it's big statistics on a page and then a success story. But we do have a video on our website. We mentioned the over 34,000 children that are served. Well, behind those 34,000 are stories. of families that have overcome obstacles or maybe found success. And we highlight 3 of those stories on that little short, I think it's a 4-minute video. So if you're on our website, and I know you've already gone over to Facebook and you liked it, now just jump over to our website, which is cscslc.org, and watch the little video. You'll learn a little bit more about Stephen, Gina, and do you remember the other?
You're putting me on the spot. No.
You know, it's a trick question, because what we want you to do is we want you to go watch the video and then message us on Facebook what the name of the other person was.
There you go.
And we'll get them a T-shirt.
That's a great.
That all worked out well,
that's
right?
That's a great game to play.
But just real quick though, if you tuning in for the first time, I want to give a short explanation of kind of how the Children's Services Council got started. If you're a long-time listener, you probably have this memorized. Children's Services Council was established in 1990. This community had to vote to establish one. And what we are is a special district, and we invest in children's programs. We already mentioned currently we invest in 53 programs that reach over 34,000 kids. So in 1990, this community overwhelmingly said yes, made children a priority. And since 1990, we've been investing in children's programs. And we do this, we make the decision of which programs to provide support to based upon the needs in the community. So, for example, we know from statistics and the data and what we do basically in the office is we know that, for example, incidences of child abuse and neglect have declined, particularly over the last 4 years. We know juvenile justice referrals, kids that are getting referred and arrested, has decreased in the last 10 years dramatically. We know number of children uninsured has decreased. And I say all that, teen birth rate has decreased. I say all that to say that we're trending in the right direction, but we still have more work to do. And that's the whole purpose of the Children's Services Council, is to address those needs. So in 1990, the community established the Children's Services Council. And since that time, you know, not to go real deep into the weeds of the accountability standards, but we've had audits, and we have accountability measures for ourselves as well as the programs that we fund. Fast forward to November 4th, 2014, the Children's Services Council, again, part of our accountability measure, kind of a check-in with the community, if you will, and the community gets to vote yes or no to reauthorize the Children's Services Council. So what happens is, if the Children's Services Council, if the vote is yes to reauthorize, those 34,000 kids being served through those 53 programs, those 53 programs will continue to get the operating support they need to provide those services. If the vote is no, some of those programs, because we fund major operating support, over half of the programs that we fund at 50% or more of their operating costs. Some of those programs will have to diminish the number of children that they serve. Some of them, quite honestly, won't be able to continue to serve. I bring that up because that's simply a choice that this community is going to make on November 4th, 2014. So I talked about how we got here and where we're going.
That's right.
And in like 2 minutes or less. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's impressive. And Sean mentioned that we share a lot of information on our Facebook page, and we do share events that are coming up in the community, things that our funded programs are doing. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are coming up. We've talked a little bit in the last few weeks about our parenting classes, and we work with local groups, organizations,
schools, churches,
anybody really, that has a location that we can administer a parenting class in all throughout the year. And we have 2 classes that are getting ready to come up. Actually, our Redirecting Children's Behavior class starts tomorrow at Sungrove Montessori School. There are still a couple of seats left for that class. So if you're interested, please get on our website and you can get registered for that class right away. We're also offering Secrets of Modern Parenting, and that's being done in conjunction with the school board's Parent Involvement Center that has just opened up at the Garden City Annex. So that class will be on Tuesday evenings starting May 20th. And we haven't offered Secrets of Modern Parenting in a while, so it's a really interesting class. I would encourage you to go on the website and learn a little bit more about the curriculum, what they're teaching in that class. Again, both of these classes are offered free to all St. Lucie County parents.
And I would just throw out there, if any grandparents, parents are listening, Secrets of Modern Parenting is great if you have adolescents or teenagers. I mean, both classes are great for children of all ages, but having been through both of these, the Secrets of Modern Parenting really addresses a lot of the behaviors that you'll see in adolescents and teenagers. And it's realistic, real-life situations, because they really, literally, you come in and say, these are the issues that I'm having, and they role-play it out, and they talk about, maybe what you did and maybe different strategies the next time it occurs. It's a really effective class, and we brought this up before. I've been through both of these classes. Just because you attend a parenting class doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. It just means that we can all learn a different way of doing things. And maybe if we're kind of stuck, or we find that this is how I've been addressing my child, and they continue to do it, well, why not look for another tool to perhaps make it even a better situation? And that's what these classes are all about. And like you said, they're offered for free.
Our favorite word.
And how can they register?
They can register on our website. Again, it's cscslc.org. If you have any questions about registration or the classes, you can call Tanya in our office. Again, the office number is 408-1100.
Now, did you have a good Easter, by the way?
I did. It was great.
Listeners and viewers, did you have a good Easter? Good. But we talked about in the month of April, there's so much stuff going on. There was kind of like a break for Easter.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of
nice.
got recharged, but we jumped right back into it. So what's going on next weekend?
This coming
weekend?
Well, several things. You and I will be very busy on Saturday. We're going to start the morning early at the Castle Stomp Out Child Abuse 5K Run and Walk. I'm happy to report that our team has about 10 people on it now, I think.
4 of them are my family members.
I noticed, but I appreciate that. The Stomp Out Child Abuse 5K Run and Walk is a fundraiser done by Castle. Again, it's Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month, so it's a great time for that. It's going to be Saturday morning at Tradition Field, about 7:30. I think registration opens at 6:30. The run will start just a little bit before the walk, so it is bright and early, but you can get it done and get on with your day, so no worries.
Are you walking or running?
I think I'm going to walk.
I'm going to walk too.
Okay, perfect.
Stroll, I think, is the better adjective.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to walk a little fast because after that, you and I will also be participating in the Port St. Lucie Business Women's Club Fashion Show. Oh, wait, I have a flyer here for you. The theme of the show this year is Strut Your Style, and this is a fundraiser that the Business Women's Club does every year, that they use all the money that they raise to give grants and scholarships to programs like the ones that we fund that benefit children and families in our community. So that'll be Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that is down at Harbor Ridge Yacht and Country Club in Palm City.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So being in a fashion show, clearly they were desperate. Not for you, but because they asked me to participate. What do we have to do exactly?
You have to get dressed up, and you have to strut your style. That's what it's called.
Awesome.
I can tell you're excited.
Yeah. I'm hoping there'll be demonstrations because I don't know what strut your style means. If anybody wants to call in and explain that, you can call in at 464-1400. But it's for a good cause, and it'll be fun.
It is.
So you mentioned that, we've kind of, for the month of April is Child Abuse Prevention Month and Awareness Month. We have a thing that's going to be running in the paper, I believe.
We do today.
It's in. Oh, really?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Okay. Well. Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of something else.
You're confusing me.
Explain what's in the paper today.
Oh, well, today.
Because I'm confused.
Today we have an insert in the paper that talks a little bit more about the programs that we fund that are related to child abuse prevention and where you can find all of that information. So if you have a paper from today handy, pull it out. You'll be able to tell it's ours because our logo is all over it, and there's an adorable picture of a little boy on the front. So you'll be able to spot it.
You're right. I forgot that was in the paper. I was thinking about in your voice.
Oh, see, you're confusing me.
We have a board member, and the the show spinning off the tracks. Our board is comprised of 5 governor appointees and then 5 people by their position, so that we make sure that we have great input to what we should invest in the community. And one of those board members is Amy Gregory, who works for the Department of Children and Families, particularly around child abuse and investigations. And she wrote an editorial. It's going to appear on our Facebook page probably Friday, but it will also be in Your Voice newspaper that talks about that child abuse and neglect is preventable. That a lot of times child abuse and neglect happens around common parenting things. For example, sleeping, toilet training, feeding, and items such as that. And sometimes parents abuse their child when they're stressed. And so the idea being that if we know of parents that are maybe new parents, or maybe they're in a crisis, or maybe they just need some help, there are resources available, including our guest today that's going to talk about those. And the whole point is that we can all work together to prevent child abuse and neglect. We've been very fortunate in St. Lucie County that over the last couple of years, our rate for child abuse and neglect has actually dropped fairly dramatically and actually below the state rate for the first time in a long time. And that's part of the efforts of Hibiscus Children's Center, Castle, New Horizons, Catholic Charities, several agencies. But there's still more work to do. Just because we're below the state rate, we need to keep bringing that down. And sometimes it's just simply recognizing that maybe somebody needs help, and maybe even recognizing it in yourself that you need help, or maybe you're in a stressful situation and you need it, not an entity to come in and judge you, but an entity to come in and be your advocate to make sure you get connected to what resources are available. So the whole point of me rambling on this way is to say that child abuse and neglect is preventable, and it just starts with really knowing what resources are out there. Ashley already mentioned that we have multiple resources for families on our website, which again is cscslc.org, but simply call our office at 408-1100 and we can get you connected to the right resource. All right, so I've got the official nod by our third team member who remains silent but very much in control that I need to do station ID. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Community Connections with Children's Services Council on legendary 1400 AM WIRA, or you're watching us on a multitude of channels thanks to the St. Lucie County School Board WLX, the Education Channel, Channel 13 for all you Comcast viewers in Fort Pierce, Channel 19 in Port St. Lucie, Hometown Cable subscribers, Channel 19, you ATTU-verse people, we're there on Channel 99, and Lightstream Cable in St. James, we got you covered on Channel 65. So thank you for tuning in and listening.
So many ways to watch us.
I nailed it. That was pretty creative that time, right?
You did good. You did pretty good.
Do you want to introduce our guest who's been patiently waiting?
I would love to. We've talked obviously a lot about child abuse prevention in the last few weeks, and I wanted to make sure that we got at least most of our child abuse prevention programs in. So I'm happy to say that today we've got Lynn Schicker with us from Hibiscus Children's Center, which you've been on the show before. It might have been a while, I think. We talked a little bit about that. But Lynn has done a lot of work herself and with her team for a particular program that we've mentioned before, supporting families in crisis, that's run by Hibiscus. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then I do want to backtrack eventually and talk a little more about all the programs that Hibiscus does. But tell us about supporting families in crisis and what that program does.
Supporting families in crisis is a primary prevention program. We try to get into homes of families and help them before abuse happens. We started out as part of a pilot project in the state of Florida. I believe it was 1994 that we started the program, and we have grown since then. Our primary focus is to stop child abuse through family case management and working and advocating for families along the way.
And how do families get referred to? Are they self-referred? Do they call if they identify that they're having a problem, or do they get referred by other agencies?
All of the above. They call themselves. We get other agencies, other funded agencies. We get referrals from Children's Services Council because people call there and don't know where to go. So we get referrals from you folks as well. Most of the information is coming from the families themselves. They see literature that's put out in the community. They have a friend that got services. They didn't know where to get them from. So it's a lot of word of mouth also, which is really cool. And the families are really desperate at that point. They're really looking for help.
Can you give us and I know you can't give out specific names and scenarios, but can you give us kind of an idea of the typical call that you receive?
Sure. Well, there's really no typical call because you never know what's coming in. But families will call in and say, one of the ones we've had in recent years because of the economy is a family that is an intact family, mother, father, 2 or 3 children. Dad worked in a job for 10 years and lost his job. They don't know where to turn. They don't have any money. They're being evicted. They have no place to go. They have limited food because they don't know where to go to get food. They don't know what to do because it's a family that's never received any services before. So those families just need help along the way. And, a family like that is at such a risk for child abuse and neglect because they don't know where to turn to and they're so stressed. So an advocate will go in, we call them family advocates, will go in and work with the family and talk to them about what their needs are, do an initial assessment with the family, which we do use a standardized tool, but also interview process, get to know the family and help them navigate through the system it's very difficult. And if anybody's ever received services from the system per se, they don't know where to go. They don't know how to apply for food stamps. They don't know how to get utility assistance. They don't even know how to negotiate with the utility company to maybe have an extension of their bill. They don't understand any of that. The advocates that work with us are incredible with what they do. They know more resources than anybody I think I've ever met in my life. They're really good at making connections with families in the community.
And, you brought up a couple of things. One, a lot of what your referrals come from word of mouth. And really, that's kind of why we established this program, to get kind of that word of mouth going even more, kind of supercharge it, if you will. Because we hear all the time, I wish there was more help for families.
Absolutely.
Now, you provide this service in the home.
Yes.
You go to them.
We're in the home. We also, if need be, will meet them somewhere else. If someone doesn't know how to fill out paperwork or fill out the computer system to get services, to get DCF services, to get food stamps and all of that, we will meet them there. We'll go there with them or bring a laptop with us to be able to do it right in the family's home.
And how long typically do you stay with a family?
We can stay with a family anywhere from a month to 120 days is what we try to max out. We've had families for 6 months, though. If a family really has a big need, we will stay with them. It just depends on the needs of the family. Sometimes families just need help to... We get even phone calls from somebody, I just moved into a new home and I don't have any furniture. Can you help me out? Well, Hibiscus has a thrift store and we're able to help the families get furniture. They may not need anything else, so that's a very quick open and close case.
Right.
So...
And you mentioned, and we kind of talked about it when we talked about Child Abuse Prevention Month, you mentioned that when a family's in crisis, whether you gave the example of somebody who maybe recently lost their job after being, long-term employed, first time it's ever happened to them. You mentioned how that kind of crisis is kind of I won't say a precursor, I think that's too strong of a word, but sets the atmosphere for potential abuse and neglect. Can you expand upon that?
Well, so many times the families are stressed, number one, and they have if a child has behavior problems, they have a difficult time coping with those behavior problems. They may resort to the fact of parenting a way they never have before. They may physically smack a child, which is not child abuse, but if you go to the extreme, yes, it is. Sometimes they don't have any food. That's neglect if you don't have food and you're not able to take care of your children. It's not neglect if you don't have utilities, but it certainly is an issue if you wind up homeless. It's also not considered neglect if you're homeless, but we don't want people and children to live out on the streets either, so we can refer them to sources where they can actually go to a homeless shelter so that they would have some place to go. Stressors in life cause child abuse.
Right. And you mentioned already that, we talk a lot of times about, removing barriers for service. Sometimes the biggest barrier is making that first phone call.
Absolutely.
So if any of our listeners out there, I'm going to ask you for the phone number, but when they call, what can they expect when somebody picks up the phone?
Well, a lot of times our staff is out in the community, so they're not necessarily on the phone at that point. We ask people to leave a message, and someone will get back to them within 24 hours. That's my rule. We have to get back to the family. If it's an immediate crisis, we'll get back to them immediately. The phones are checked probably every half hour. When someone's out in the community, they'll just call in and check the phones. If it's an emergency, we'll contact the family and get out there right away. They can expect somebody to ask them information. What's going on? Please give me a little bit more information about your family. And then we'll say, would you like to do an intake? Would you like us to go further with you and see what services we can provide? And we'll do like a little a pre-screening per se, just asking for information, asking how many children are in the home, because that's part of our program, that you have to have a child under 18 in your home. And ask information, ask a little bit of budget information. You know, if somebody's behind in their utilities, well, how far are you behind in the utilities? Because we may be able to provide some financial support, but it's a very small amount due to, of course, funding and all of that, but enough to maybe help a family stay in their home or keep their utilities on. Or, you know, you can't live without water. You really need to have water in your home.
What's the phone number?
The phone number is 772-340-5044, and it's extension 422.
So, you know, I want to emphasize this. I'm going to ask you to expound upon it. But, you know, a lot of times what we hear is, you know, sometimes the hardest step is the call. And sometimes they feel like if they make that call, they're just inviting somebody in to kind of judge them, if you will.
Right.
And I always stress to them that nobody's there to judge you. They're there to be your advocate.
Right.
So can you kind of expound on how you make sure that that's the atmosphere that's given out?
Sure. It's the people that have worked in this program for a very long period of time. They're not in there to judge your parenting style, to judge the cleanliness of your home, to judge whether you have new furniture, old furniture. They're there to help you along the way. That doesn't matter to them. If your home is unsanitary and unsafe, yes, they're going to talk about it and try to help that. But they're there to help you. They're a helper. They're someone that is coming into the house to help you negotiate and get you what you need and get your family what they need. You know, we have families that call and say, we just recently had this call. Somebody called and said, I lost my job. I don't have any baby formula. Mm-hmm. So we went out, we checked with our shelter, first of all, to see if they have any additional. But if we don't, we'll go out and get the formula for the baby. A baby needs formula.
Right.
You know, they don't, but this is a family that necessarily doesn't know about WIC and how to apply for WIC. So then we give them the formula and say, this is what you need to do so you can get some help along the way to get formula for your baby.
So you help them short term, but then show them long term on how they
we
can
help
address
them.
it.
You know, it says crisis, so we help them in the immediate crisis and then work with them, because usually the immediate crisis is only a precursor. There's usually more going on in the home and the family needs assistance and other things. So that's why we stay with them throughout a period of time to help them.
I think one thing that you keep mentioning that is so important is that you're not just making a referral and bringing them the formula and then saying, here's how you get the formula the next time. But your family advocates are actually sort of hand holders.
Right,
and
they're case managers.
Make sure that they get through that process,
Right.
Because we know that, you know, depending on what the program might be, there may be obstacles to make sure that you fill the paperwork out correctly, or that you give them all the information that they need to make sure that you're
Right.
getting that service. So I think it's really important to note that your family advocates are actually walking them through the process.
Absolutely.
Instead of just sending them information and saying this is how
No,
you
because
do it.
that's going to stop it in the first place, but it's not going to help it in the long run.
Right.
And it's not going to help the reoccurrence of the activity going on or the stressor going on. We want to help them find the resources within the community, whatever their need may be, so that we can help them along the way.
You know, in times of crisis, or, you know, you've done this, when you need something, you know, you call your friends, and you might call the people you go to church with, you might call coworkers. That's really what this program is. It's just another advocate, somebody else that you can call, and somebody that's going to be in your corner. You know, everybody needs somebody in their corner to help them out at some time or another. And it's a great program, and we can't stress this enough, because you and I, Ashley and I do presentations all throughout the community, and so often we hear, you know, we know of all these young families, you know, and they just need help, or they don't know where to get formula, or they're running low on diapers, or, you know, they're going to be homeless. And we're like, you know, you need to call Supporting Families in Crisis. I've never heard of that. Well, we're changing that today. But the number again is 340-5044, extension 422. I'm going to repeat that because I want all of our listeners and viewers to write it down. 340-5044, extension 422. And keep in mind that this service is free.
Yes.
It's in the home, and it's not judging, it's advocating. You know, if you're in a crisis, I want as much support behind me as possible so I can get through it. get the experts in your corner. It's kind of what it's all boils down to.
And we talk all the time when we talk about our parenting classes. You mentioned it earlier today. It's not an admission of fault. We're not saying that you're doing a bad
Absolutely.
job. We're not saying that you're a bad parent. But everybody at one point or another needs help, and this is a really easy way to find the experts at what resources are available out there. I would have to agree with you. I don't know that I know anyone better than Will and the rest of your team about.
They're amazing.
What
They're
is
absolutely
out
amazing.
there.
I ask them when I need a resource because they're so good at it. They
Yeah.
really know, and they really know how to negotiate the system to help families along the way. And just some families just need help. They can't even organize how their bills come in. They don't even know where their money goes. So we work with them. Here's track what you spend. Track it along the way, and now let's look at your budget and see what we need to do and see what you need to plan in advance, because so many people don't have that training. No one taught them any of that information, and I could use them for myself occasionally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's too, maybe they were a 2-income family that is now a 1-income family, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate, stretching the money that they are
Absolutely.
making the farthest that they
Right.
can. So, budgeting is a huge help in that regard.
Well, they don't know about being able to go to the food bank.
Right.
They don't necessarily know about all the services that are available, and that you see that all the time. We have your directories, we give them out, we just this is what's available. They don't know how to apply for assistance for after school care, or how to get child care so that they can go out and search for a job, because they don't have anybody to take care of their children. They don't have transportation. They don't know how to arrange for transportation. It's just really simple things along the way that are big to the family that's going through it.
And it's like you said, they're in crisis right here, right now. You address the crisis, and then you set them up for long-term
Absolutely.
to get them through the crisis or until they get themselves back on their
Yes,
feet.
yes.
I'm going to pause real quick for station ID, and then we're going to continue this conversation. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County on legendary WIRA 1400 AM. Got to put in the legendary
I like
because
it.
that's the new format. I love it. And you're watching us. And thank you for watching and tuning in on WLX, the St. Lucie County School Board Education Channel for you Comcast subscribers. Channel 13 in Fort Pierce, Channel 19 in Port St. Lucie, hometown cable subscribers, Channel 19, ATTU-verse, Channel 99, and Lightstream Cable at St. James, Channel 65.
You did so good the first time.
That wasn't that bad. When you compare it to the first time I give you, it wasn't as good, as smooth, but I kind of got thrown off a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, that's all right. So, Lynn, I want to talk a little bit about Will, and I know that I hope he's listening, and we talked a little bit about this before the show.
I'm sure he's not.
He's too busy.
He's probably working.
He's working.
We know that for
Well,
sure.
maybe. We hope.
Yeah, we at the Children's Services Council every year we honor 2 community members as champions for children in the community, and it's become a rather prestigious award because we have to, as staff, do a lot of debating.
Yes.
And this year, Will actually has been awarded one of those Champion for Children awards. So we got to call him last week and tease him a little bit. But he found out last week that he won the award. You were keeping a secret for quite a while.
It was very difficult. I wanted to burst at the seams because it's awesome.
Sure. But I think that really, speaks volumes to what your family advocates are able to do in the community. We also get to see every quarter success stories that come out of your program, and we've published a couple of them on our website and in newsletters and things like that. But a lot of that, I think, is attributed to the work that your family advocates are doing, and Will just being, one of those, one
Absolutely.
of your team. But he has done a great job and kind of was able to step in when you had some staffing
Yes.
situations. But just publicly wanted to put out there that Will is a champion for children, and he's doing great work in this program, and we're really proud that he's part of our Extended Children's Services Council family.
We're very proud of him at Hibiscus Children's Center. It's a big honor. I did know Catherine Basile, so to be able to say that he has that award is awesome. I mean, she was an awesome lady. So, and he's awesome. He just doesn't like people to tell him that.
Well, we'll keep telling him.
So he's going to be very humble at the dinner. He's bursting at the seams, but he doesn't want anybody to know. So I really hope he's not
quietly
listening.
celebrating.
Now, how long has Will been in this role? He's been there a while, right?
He's been there much longer than I have. I think he's been at Hibiscus Children's Center about 16, 17 years. He started out as a child care worker in the shelter, and then when the program had openings, he decided he wanted to move on to do something different. And he's been in supporting families in crisis. It used to be formerly called Crisis Nursery. He has been in the program longer than I've been at the agency, and I'm there almost 9 years. So he's been there quite some time. He's very good at what he does. He knows resources. He works well with people. He helps them with their children, helps them finding resources, helps them negotiate what they need to negotiate. He's very good. He just doesn't want anybody to know, though.
Well, we know, and we're going to tell everybody.
It's awesome.
And we did the community had the community forums, the Restoring the Village effort, and we invited Will to come and participate because Will has been in, I don't think this is a lie, thousands of homes.
Oh,
in the community, multiple thousands.
Absolutely.
Particularly all throughout the entire county. So, when we're talking about, what families need and stuff, it's great to have myself and, other people, but really, Will has a pulse on what's going on in the community.
It's
so we asked him
grassroots,
to attend and kind of give us the real story of what we're seeing. And he's great and very humble.
He is.
You have to pry the information out of him. But, if we had everybody that Will's helped, come into this room, we'd have to expand it tenfold easily.
One of the families he helped was part of one of your campaigns. One of the men that was gave a story. Yes.
Shared. And I would encourage everybody that's listening, we do have a lot of success stories on our website, several, I think, from Supporting Families in Crisis. So you can actually go on and read those anytime. And we always send one out, actually, every month as well. So if you are not subscribed to our newsletter, I'll give our newsletter a little plug there. You can sign up to receive the newsletter because we do send out a success story every month.
And, just reflecting on this, because we're talking about a phone call we got in the office before we came here. We put all this information out there. We put out the success stories. We put out the flyer in the paper so that people can realize that there's help out there. Mm-hmm. We always say that you yourself, as you're listening to this radio program at your work, you may say, my kids are grown. I don't need this program. Or you may say, you know what, my kids are in a secure place. This isn't going to happen to me. But it could happen to you. Mm-hmm. Or more importantly, it could happen to somebody that you know. So we put out these resources constantly because there's a gap in what is out. There's a gap in what people think is out there versus what is actually out there. And the only way we're going to reverse that trend is by talking about it. Mm-hmm. You said it right off the start when we said, what's the best referral for your program? It's word of mouth. That's true of Supporting Families in Crisis. That's true of after-school programs. That's true of the nurse home visitation program. We all have to play a role in this. And I say that not in defense. That sounds defensive. But I say that's the reason why we do this show. That's the reason why we put things in the newspaper so that people can realize that, hey, I know this family and they need help. Here's a resource to turn to.
I actually have a great example of that. I don't know if I even talked to you about this, but we got a phone call in the office last week that was a young mother who was actually looking for diagnostic services for her 2-year-old who she thought might have some hearing and speech issues. So I returned her phone call and spoke to her for quite a while. And through our conversation, she mentioned to me that in addition to her younger son, she had an older son who was having some behavior issues in his childcare. And he kept getting in trouble, and they were trying to do some behavior modification, but it wasn't quite working out the way they expected it to. And I was able to refer her to Help Me Behave with helping people succeed. And she was so grateful. That wasn't even the service that she had reached out for. It was something else entirely that she had called about. But through kind of discussion with her, we were able to find an additional service.
That's awesome.
Also available at no cost that she was able to take part of. So, you really don't think about the people in your life that might need that help And
Because people don't readily come out. And how's your day going? Oh, let me tell you about what's going on with my kids.
right, but think about what a great resource you are if you know all of that information and can immediately say, well, I heard about this great program on a radio show, and here's the number to call to find out more about it.
Right. And that great program that we're talking about today. No, well, I was going to say that great program that we're talking about today is supporting families in crisis.
Well, we couldn't exist if we didn't have you. So,
But if you know of a family that's in a crisis, they come in and they resolve it short term, and they set them up to find long-term solutions, and they help them navigate the system. And it starts with a simple phone call. You might have to leave a message, but that's okay because they get back within 24 hours.
yes.
And that number is 340-5044, extension 422.
And everything that we do is extremely confidential. If people are worried about, I don't want my neighbor to find out, I don't want my father to find out, it's confidential. The only people that know about it are us. If there's another agency that we have to refer to and we have to give them information, we ask your permission before we ever give names or information out. We don't give that. So I know a lot of people are proud and they don't want necessarily other people to know. It's not an issue. No one else knows except the people that work in the program.
That's good to know. All right, so we've talked about we've talked about supporting families in crisis. Before our time disappears here, I mean, Hibiscus Children's Center, you do so much more than, you do supporting families in crisis very well. And by the way, it's a very successful program. We didn't even talk about that. You have a last year, you had a 100% success rate.
We have a 100% success rate of keeping children out of the child welfare system during services and 1 year after services,
That is
which
a huge
is
deal.
awesome.
Yeah.
And how many families did you see last year? Do you know?
I don't know families, but children is approximately 400, I believe.
Wow.
That's outstanding. 100% success rate.
Yeah, that's amazing to
That
me,
is.
actually.
That's good. I mean, we look.
It's awesome. That's what we want.
Right.
But, yeah, and we do check. And there have been no verified abuse cases in any of those families,
That's excellent.
which is 400 children that were kept out of child welfare, which is awesome.
Right, which is, one, beneficial to that family, beneficial to that child, and beneficial to the community because
Absolutely.
every child that goes into the child welfare system, it costs, I think I just read like $72,000 a year.
It's very expensive,
Right.
yes. Plus, it's so traumatic to the child to be removed from a family and not be with their family. That's very traumatic, and it sets them up for other problems later on.
Right.
So hopefully we alleviate that, and it's not part of them. So that's awesome. They're awesome. I mean, my team is awesome.
Yeah, the program. If you get one thing from today, Hibiscus Children's Center supporting families in crisis, available to all families, 340-5044, extension 422. But the simple term is, it's awesome.
I'm prejudiced.
And it's
We'll let you
available
have
for
that.
all families in St. Lucie County. If you know of any family that's struggling or needs some help or is in a crisis, in a pinch, they don't know where their food's coming from, they don't have what they need for their children, they don't know where they're going to live, call. It's a simple phone call.
Yes.
And sometimes the hardest step is the first step. And so that's why we need all of the listeners to encourage people, if you know somebody, to make that call. Be their advocate in order to get the supporting families advocates. All right, so we talked about that. We understand that it's awesome. Let's talk about everything else that happens at Hibiscus Children's Center.
In 10 minutes or less.
Yeah.
I could do it in 2.
All right, there we go.
Hibiscus Children's Center has been around for 29 years now. Started as a small shelter in Jensen Beach for children that were in the child welfare system. Of course, it was all very different way back when. Started with a group of people that had a vision that they wanted to have a safe place for children to be. Foster homes were very limited. There weren't shelters for children. So it started there a long, long time ago. That shelter still continues to be there. That shelters children that are part of the child welfare system, 12 and under. That shelter particularly, they can house up to about 35 children there, and they have been running at full capacity right now. We also, in addition to that, have we call it the Village, which is group homes for children that are teenagers that are 12 and up, and they stay there till their 18th birthday. Foster care has just been extended, that children can stay in the child welfare system up until the age of 21. We just opened a house for children to do that. It's very limited. It will only be limited to 5 children. And there is one member there right now. He lived there. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay there. So he did. He's staying there. So some of the teenagers have very, very challenging behaviors. So the programs that are up there work with the challenging behaviors. They have behavior techs on staff that work with the children all of the time. In addition to up there, so many of the children that are in foster care, because all of the children in the shelters and the village are in foster care, don't have a mission of where they're going to go after they get out of foster care. So we have a career pathways program up there that helps children, and that's really only for Vero Beach at this point. It helps children focus on careers, get jobs, learn how to be functional parts of society. So that program is up there. Children, it's voluntary. The children do not have to participate in that if they don't want to, but they're encouraged to because they want money, they want jobs, they're teenagers. They want to do things that teenagers do. So that has been very successful in getting children out into the community in the workplace. So that's an awesome program, too. Everything's awesome at Hibiscus. What am I saying?
Yeah.
You're a great speaker. I just like it. It's so positive. Everything's awesome.
We also have a mental health program that provides services for children in foster care and not in foster care, provides mental health services to the community, children in the community. In addition to that, we have a sexual abuse treatment program, one of the only few in the state that is certified to do sexual abuse treatment. A lot of the children that come into foster care, sometimes they find out up to 80% of the children have been sexually abused at one point or another. So they work in that program. They also provide mental health services to the children that are in the shelter and in the village, because so many children just being taken from your home provides so many stressors to the children, and they need help along the way. Some of the kids have been egregiously abused, which I'm sure people understand. I don't think anybody understands until you get into it and know what's happened to children. So they do need help along the way. So, and then in addition to that, we are part of the collaborative with a program that Children's Services funds, which is Strengthening Families. And that's 5 agencies working in a collaborative to teach parenting skills to, again, stop the child abuse in the community. That's a 14-week program that the parents attend with their children, and it provides services to them and gives them parenting techniques, teaches them work together. They work separately, they work together as part of the parenting skills, and that's number 1 in the nation.
Yeah, I was going to say that's another really successful program.
Yes, that's number 1 in the nation, and we have the behavior support part of that. And Arturo goes into the homes and provides services into the families' homes. Did I forget anything?
I have the checklist. I think you got it all.
I think so. I just wanted to say I had the opportunity to meet the clinic manager at a COSA meeting last week, and they were sharing information about the mental health services, which I knew you provided, but hadn't quite heard a real detailed explanation of it. And I was really impressed that you guys are doing so much to support kids in foster care.
They service anywhere from 300 to 700 children per month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it depends on what the referrals are at that point. And most of it is Medicaid, so they have to stay within the Medicaid guidelines. We do have grants and funding from other sources. Victims Comp and Sexual Abuse Treatment Program has a separate funding in the state as well. So
it sounds like, it doesn't sound like it is, that Hibiscus Children's Center, you're kind of involved with the prevention end
yes.
of preventing child abuse and neglect,
Yes.
but also if children are abused and neglected, and we've talked, like you said, all month about child abuse and neglect, those families or those children that are removed from their home due
Yes.
to no fault of their own, you provide resources to them, places for
Absolutely.
them to live and to help them, if you will, when they get out of the system to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's like a continuum of services along the way. We really want to keep the children out of the child welfare system, but we're limited, of course. Everybody's limited in the amount of services that they can provide. But once they're in, we want them to be successful and be either go back to their families or be successful when they leave the services and go out into the community.
And it's such a big deal, and we didn't really talk about it. We try not to get into legislative stuff and all that. We try to keep it upbeat and lively, but, it's a big deal that because it used to be you'd aged out of foster care at 18.
Yes.
Well, children that aren't abused and neglected, to say you're on your own at 18
They
doesn't
don't
happen.
know what
Now
to
imagine
do.
a child that's been through the traumatic experience of having been abused or neglected, being removed from their parents, even if they were the abusers and neglected, they were the
Right.
parents that they knew, perhaps separated from their siblings, probably have been moved to a couple of foster homes.
Absolutely.
I was at a presentation this morning, and one of the speakers was a young woman who had aged out of foster care. She said when she got removed, she was in 8 different middle schools being bounced around.
Yeah, that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, and those kids, when they turn 18, are not ready to go, on their own. So I'm glad to see that they finally realized that these children, really all children, but particularly
It's a
these
great
children.
legislative tool. Yes,
right.
it really was.
And I'm glad to hear that Hibiscus Children's Center is kind of on the forefront leading that transition for
We're
those
starting.
young.
It's just new. It just started in January. So we started with one child, and we will grow the program. Hopefully it will be very successful for the children, because that's really what matters.
Well, that's outstanding to hear. We're a little distracted because something's going on in the studio.
We're just getting guests, that's all.
Mighty Mike is making a little bit of a cameo, if you will, into our radio program.
That's all right. Anytime, Mike, anytime.
It was quiet, though.
Yeah, he was very
He
quiet.
was quiet.
I got to tease Mike a little bit, Mighty Mike, and hopefully when he's back out in the studio, he's listening. There was a picture of me posted on Facebook, and anyone that's on Facebook, and y'all should be on Facebook, he's all over Facebook, and he commented, I was wearing a tie. I was in Tallahassee. The picture was taken when I was in Tallahassee.
At someone's desk.
At a legislator's desk, and they said legislator of the day, and he's like, his comment was, how come you never wear a tie in the studio? I always wear a tie in the studio. I'm actually wondering why I'm wearing a tie in the studio, because it's hot in here. But Mighty Mike, I always wear a tie in the studio, and I have the video proof to
And
show it.
we've got lots of pictures. Well, we can prove him wrong there.
That's right. So anyway, I digress. Sorry. That's what happens.
Well-
something shiny comes in and we go off.
Squirrel. Lynn has shared a ton of information with us today, and I want to just make sure that if anyone is listening and is thinking, they may have a family that might be looking for services, or they themselves might be looking for services, that we get that phone number out one more time. And the number to reach supporting families in crisis is 340-5044, extension 422. If no one answers the phone, please leave a message.
Yes.
They will get back in touch with you. And I would encourage everybody, this is one of those numbers that you should have in your phone, so that if something comes up, if you're out in the community, maybe having a conversation with somebody who is having a crisis and is looking for somebody to talk to right away, this is a good number to have
Absolutely.
to share with them.
And even if they're not eligible to provide, we're not eligible. Oh boy, if we can't provide the services, if they're not eligible, we can provide resources to the family and give them referrals of where they perhaps need to go. We get phone calls from all kinds of people looking for help. They don't know the criteria for enrollment in the program. Grandmothers, grandfathers. Grandmothers and grandfathers have so much stress when they're parenting grandchildren. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And sometimes it's just a simple little thing that we have to work with them on.
And the important thing is it's available to all families.
Yes.
And crisis happen to all families. I mean, I hate to
in
say
all
it.
shapes and sizes.
Yes, all
Absolutely.
shapes and sizes, and it's free for the community, and they are your advocate. They are on your side to help you through that situation and set you up for long-term success. Again, I'm going to give the number out at least one more time.
And when the phones are ringing,
It's 340-5044, extension 422. As Ashley said, write it down. We're going to post it on our Facebook page, but write it down, memorize it. I promise you, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're going to run across a family that's going to need help at some point. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but I promise you down the road, whether it be a coworker, congregation member, or even your own family member that could utilize a resource. And it's really a simple phone call. And it's non-evasive. It's not somebody coming in, judging you. It's really somebody coming in and being your advocate.
absolutely.
In crisis, we all rally around. We all get our friends and say, I need help. We'll ask Hibiscus for help, too, because they're the experts.
That's true.
They've been doing it for 29 years. They know what they're doing. And as Lynn said, they're awesome.
They're awesome.
They are awesome.
They are.
So, do you have any besides, we gave a shout out to Will Malone, reluctantly our champion for children, the Kathy Basile Champion for Children Award winner. Anybody else you want to give shout outs to?
Of course, we have to shout out to Jackie, who's the other advocate in the program.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Don't want to miss Jackie.
Jackie has been with the program for longer than I've had the program, so she is a very kind, caring person. She's a motherly type, which is really cool for some of the families.
Yeah.
You know, she has a different approach than Will because they're different people, but she is really good at what she does. Also,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome. I told you.
Just rolled right off the tongue.
It's addicting.
It is. It is. Well, thank you for coming on.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome anytime.
Thank you, Lynn, and also thank you, Will and Jackie, for all that you do. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for writing that information down and being an extension of the show by connecting people to what resources are available. But truly, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
100% success rate. There's not even a 100% success rate. I'm
Can't
going to
get better than that.
turn these switches off at the end of the show. So
Maybe.
you can't get better than 100%. We are running out of time. It's a weekly radio program.
We will be back.
So make sure you set your calendar, set your reminder on your work, whatever. Go to our Facebook page, like it. Tune in next Tuesday at 11 a.m. for Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Louis County. We want to thank you for tuning in and or watching. And remember, this is our children, our community, and our future. We're in this together. We'll see you next week.